Have you ever wondered why some women seem impossible to reach, no matter how much effort you put in? They appear strong, untouchable, guarded, as if they don't need anyone. But deep inside, they crave the one thing they will never admit out loud, someone strong enough to break the walls they've built around their hearts. Today, I want to show you a truth that few men understand. She will only love you if you dare to break her. Not by hurting her, not by overpowering her, but by breaking through the fears and defenses that stop her from truly surrendering to love. Every woman carries within her a set of walls that life has helped her build, sometimes consciously and sometimes unconsciously. These walls are not built out of malice or arrogance, but out of necessity, born from experiences of betrayal, rejection, and pain. When she has been hurt before, when she has seen promises crumble or has been taken for granted, her instinct is to protect her heart from future wounds. She learns to rely on herself, to trust less, to keep her deepest feelings hidden away. On the outside, she may appear strong, independent, and unshakable, but beneath those layers lies a softness she is terrified to reveal. Breaking her walls is not about conquering her or exerting control. It is about creating a safe space where she no longer feels the need to protect herself from you. It is not an act of force, but an act of patience and understanding. To unlock her vulnerability, you must recognize that those walls are part of her survival. They are not weaknesses. They are shields she needed in a world that has tested her resilience. If you approach those walls with frustration or entitlement, believing she should drop them simply because you demand closeness, you will only reinforce her fears. Instead, the key is presence and consistency. She needs to feel, not hear, that you will not walk away when she is difficult to understand. She needs to sense through your actions that you can hold her emotions without judgment. Vulnerability is never unlocked by pressure. It is unlocked by safety. And safety is communicated through steady behavior, through moments where she realizes you are not just interested in her, when she is easy to love, but also when she is guarded and distant. The process of breaking her walls is delicate, because what you are really breaking is not her strength, but the illusions she has built to shield her pain. She has likely told herself stories that love cannot be trusted, that closeness only leads to loss, that showing her real self will result in rejection. Each time you respond with empathy instead of irritation, you chip away at those narratives. Each time you listen without trying to fix her, you disprove her belief that people only want her surface and not her depths. Each time you remain steady instead of running when she tests your patience, you give her proof that she can lean into you without collapsing. And slowly, almost without her realizing it, her walls begin to lower, not because you forced them down, but because she chose to put them down in your presence. It is important to understand that unlocking her vulnerability requires you to be anchored in your own strength. A man who is insecure, needy, or seeking validation will not be able to handle the weight of her fears. When she begins to open, when she begins to reveal the emotions she has kept buried, it will not always be gentle or beautiful. At times, it may come out as defensiveness, withdrawal, or even anger, because she is afraid of what it means to be seen so fully. This is where control has no place. You cannot dictate how she opens up. You cannot rush her timeline, and you cannot demand transparency before she feels ready. Your role is to remain unshaken, to embody calmness and certainty, so that when her emotions rise, they do not scare you away. This steadiness is what reassures her that you are not another temporary presence, but someone who can handle the truth of who she is. Breaking her walls is also about showing her that intimacy is not conditional. Many women have experienced relationships where their value was tied only to how they looked, how agreeable they were, or how much they gave. Rarely has she been valued for simply existing as herself, flaws and all. When you admire her effort, when you acknowledge her struggles, when you see her beyond her appearance, you begin to show her that her worth is deeper than the roles she plays for others. This allows her to trust that with you, she does not have to perform or pretend. She can relax into her authentic self, and this is the deepest form of vulnerability, where she no longer hides her imperfections because she believes you will not love her less for them. The paradox is that the stronger her exterior seems, the more fragile her interior often is. She is not looking for someone to break her strength. She is looking for someone who honors it while gently inviting her to put the armor down. She wants to be reminded that her softness is not a liability, but a gift, that her emotions are not a burden, but a bridge to intimacy, that her vulnerability will not be exploited, but cherished. When she finally lets you in, it is not because you demanded her trust, but because you earned it with patience, resilience, and genuine care. And in that moment, you will see a side of her that few ever witness, the raw, unguarded heart that is capable of giving love in its purest form. Every strong woman you encounter has not become strong by accident. Her strength has been shaped and forged through experiences that tested her, challenged her, and at times even broke her. Behind her confident smile and composed demeanor, there are often layers of unspoken battles she has fought, disappointments, betrayals, and the quiet heartbreaks she endured without anyone truly understanding what she was going through. Over time, these experiences teach her a painful but necessary lesson. Not everyone can be trusted with her heart. Not every promise is kept, and not every hand that reaches for her is there to hold her without letting go. To protect herself from repeating cycles of hurt, she builds what we can call emotional armor. This armor is not something she wears to repel love, but rather something she carries to filter out what feels unsafe. It is a shield designed to protect her from further disappointment, from having to pick up shattered pieces of herself again and again. This emotional armor often manifests in subtle ways that are easily misunderstood by others. Some see her independence as coldness, her standards as arrogance, or her boundaries as walls too high to climb. But what most fail to realize is that each layer of armor has a story attached to it. Maybe once she gave her heart too freely and it was taken for granted. Maybe she trusted words that sounded sweet but were never backed by action. Maybe she poured her energy into someone who only drained her spirit and left her feeling unworthy. Those moments leave scars, and out of those scars comes the decision to never allow anyone to wound her in the same way again. So, she strengthens her resolve, she sharpens her intuition, and she tells herself she will never be that vulnerable with just anyone. Her armor is her silent declaration to the world. If you want to enter, you must prove yourself different from the rest. It is not a lack of desire for love, but a demand for something deeper, something more reliable, something true. The armor she wears also represents the duality of her nature. On one hand, she yearns for connection, intimacy, and the softness of being able to lean on someone without fear. On the other hand, she fears that lowering her defenses will only invite more disappointment. This inner conflict often creates a tension within her relationships. She may appear distant at first, cautious with her words, and selective with what she reveals. She will test consistency. She will observe how someone reacts under pressure, and she will watch whether their actions align with their promises. It is not because she enjoys playing games, but because her past has taught her that consistency reveals truth better than words ever will. Her armor is not meant to hide her true self forever, but it acts as a filter to separate fleeting interest from genuine intention. For the man who is patient enough to understand this, her armor is not a rejection, but an invitation to show strength of character. What many fail to grasp is that her emotional armor does not mean she is unfeeling or incapable of love. In fact, it is quite the opposite. She feels deeply, which is why she protects herself so fiercely. She knows the depth of her love. She knows the loyalty she can offer, and she knows the devotion she brings into a relationship. But she also knows how devastating it is when that love is mishandled. So she guards it, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Only when someone proves that they can handle the weight of her heart does she begin to remove pieces of her armor, slowly and carefully. And when she does not offer half measures. A strong woman who finally feels safe enough to remove her armor gives a love that is intense, nurturing, and unwavering because she no longer feels the need to hold back. Her armor, however, does not only protect her from others, it also serves as a reminder to herself. It reminds her not to lower her standards out of loneliness, not to ignore red flags just because she desires companionship, and not to pour herself into someone who cannot meet her halfway. It pushes her to stay aligned with her values, to demand respect before intimacy, and to ensure that her emotional energy is not wasted on those who only take without giving in return. Her armor in this way is both her protection and her teacher. It keeps her steady in a world that often tries to convince women to settle for less than they deserve. It strengthens her ability to walk away when something feels wrong and to wait patiently for the connection that feels right. And while her emotional armor is heavy, she wears it with dignity. To those who do not understand her, it may look like she is guarded, difficult, or impossible to reach. But to the one who sees her truly, that armor is not intimidating, it is beautiful. Because it reveals that she has lived, she has endured, she has survived, and she still chooses to stand strong rather than crumble under the weight of her past. Her armor is not the absence of softness, but the evidence of her resilience, the living proof that she will not be easily broken again. True love does not begin in the grand gestures, the sweet words, or the romantic illusions that so many are conditioned to chase. It begins in the quiet moments where safety replaces fear, where trust dissolves doubt, and where a woman feels that she no longer has to guard herself from pain. A strong woman, one who has been through heartbreak, disappointment, or betrayal, does not allow herself to love freely without first ensuring that she is emotionally secure. Her walls are not built because she doesn't want love. They exist because she wants love so deeply that she refuses to let it be wasted on something temporary or insincere. For her, true love only begins when she senses that she can let those defenses down, when she feels that her vulnerability will not be exploited, and when she realizes that she no longer needs to wear her emotional armor as protection against hurt. That is the point where love becomes real, where it shifts from surface level attraction into something lasting, something that nourishes both hearts. To understand this, you must first see her walls not as rejection, but as survival. Every layer of defense she has built is a product of her experiences, moments where she trusted too quickly, believed in words without seeing consistent action, or invested deeply in someone who gave her only fragments in return. She has learned, sometimes painfully, that not everyone who comes close deserves access to her heart. So when you encounter her, she is cautious. She may test your patience. She may observe how you handle frustration, and she may watch how you act when she is not offering her full attention. These defenses are not meant to push you away forever, but to see if you are capable of staying long enough to prove yourself different. Once she realizes that your presence is not a threat to her peace, that your energy is not draining but grounding, her walls begin to lower, not because she is forced to, but because she chooses to. When she starts feeling safe, you will notice subtle shifts. Her conversations become more open, her laughter becomes more frequent, and her eyes begin to carry a softness that was once guarded. Safety gives her the courage to reveal her true self, not just the strong, composed version of her that the world sees, but the tender, vulnerable side that only few ever get to witness. This is the part of her that holds her deepest fears, her unspoken insecurities, and her raw emotions. She does not share this side with everyone because to her, revealing it is not casual, it is sacred. But when she does allow those defenses to fall, it is the purest expression of trust. And in that trust, true love is born, because love that is forced, rushed, or demanded can never compare to love that is freely given once safety has been established. The power of safety lies in its ability to transform the way she experiences connection. Without it, love feels fragile, uncertain, and conditional. With it, love becomes expansive, nurturing, and magnetic. When she feels safe, she no longer second-guesses your intentions. She no longer feels the need to analyze every word or action because she has already experienced your consistency. She knows that your presence is not tied to convenience but commitment, not tied to appearances but depth. This assurance allows her to let go of her fears and step into a love that feels liberating rather than confining. Safety in this way becomes the soil where intimacy grows. It is not passion that sustains love alone, but the calmness of knowing she is protected emotionally, spiritually, and mentally in your presence. True love begins here because this is the point where her love shifts from conditional to boundless. When her defenses come down, she does not give in half measures. She loves with intensity, with loyalty, and with devotion. Her nurturing energy flows freely. Her feminine essence comes alive, and she invests herself not because she has to, but because she wants to. In this space, she no longer holds back her affection, her dreams, or her vulnerability. She becomes fully present in the relationship because she knows that the ground she is standing on is solid. And when a woman loves from this place of safety, her love becomes transformational. It uplifts, it inspires, and it fuels a connection that goes beyond attraction into true partnership. But what is important to realize is that her safety is not created through manipulation, pressure, or promises alone. It is built through consistent actions, respect for her boundaries, and the patience to let her open up at her own pace. Safety comes when she feels she is valued not just for her beauty or her presence, but for her essence, her mind, and her soul. It comes when she knows that her silence will be met with understanding, her vulnerability will be met with care, and her mistakes will be met with compassion instead of judgment. Safety is not something you demand from her. It is something you earn through who you are and how you show up day after day. And once it is there, her defenses naturally fade away, not because she is weak, but because she finally feels strong enough to be soft. Breaking through the walls of a guarded heart is not an easy task, and that is why so few ever succeed in truly reaching the soul of a strong woman. Her guardedness is not a flaw, nor is it a barrier meant to punish anyone who dares to approach her. It is her shield, her protection against the pain she has endured in the past, against the wounds that taught her the harsh truth that not every hand that reaches for her is meant to hold her with care. To win her heart, to genuinely break through her defenses, takes something more than charm, more than fleeting passion, more than shallow gestures. It takes courage, the courage to remain steady when she tests your patience, to stand firm when she pushes you away, and to show her through actions that you are not intimidated by her strength, nor discouraged by her distance. This courage is what convinces her that you are different from the rest, that you are not here to exploit her softness, but to honor it. Consistency is the second key, because courage without consistency fades into impulsive effort. A woman with a guarded heart has seen people come and go. She has experienced grand words that dissolved when they were not convenient anymore, and promises that broke the moment they became inconvenient. Her walls are built from disappointment, and so the only way they come down is through a consistent rhythm of reliability. This does not mean overwhelming her with constant attention or forceful gestures, but instead showing up in ways that align with your words. It means being the same in her presence as you are in her absence, showing her that your respect is not conditional on what you receive in return. Consistency is not about perfection. It is about steadiness, about being the calm center that she can eventually lean on when her storms feel overwhelming. Every time you remain steady instead of reactive, patient instead of frustrated, you chip away at her doubt and build the foundation of her trust. Emotional strength is the third element, and perhaps the most vital, because without it, you will never withstand the process of unraveling her defenses. A guarded woman will test you, not because she enjoys it, but because she needs to know that your intentions are real. She needs to see if you can handle her silence, her distance, her moments of vulnerability that come and go like waves. If your sense of worth crumbles when she pulls back, if your emotions spiral when she takes her time, then you confirm her fear that opening up will only lead to instability. But if you remain emotionally strong, anchored, patient, calm, you communicate to her that her guardedness does not scare you and her walls do not discourage you. That strength is what gives her permission to explore her softness. Emotional strength does not mean controlling her or fixing her. It means holding your ground without losing yourself, being stable enough for her to feel that she can risk being vulnerable around you. Breaking through her guarded heart requires an understanding that the process is not fast. It is slow, deliberate, and often filled with moments where progress feels invisible. She may open up one day and retreat the next, not because she is playing games, but because her heart is still learning that it is safe to trust again. This requires patience from you, the kind of patience that does not demand results, but respects her pace. If you try to rush her, pressure her, or convince her before she is ready, you do not break through her walls, you reinforce them. She will sense manipulation or desperation, and her heart will retreat deeper into hiding. But when you combine courage with consistency and emotional strength, you create an environment where her defenses eventually feel unnecessary. She lowers her guard, not because you forced her to, but because she finally feels safe enough to do it. The courage, consistency, and emotional strength it takes to reach her are also reflections of your own growth. A guarded woman does not respond to shallow efforts, which means that to connect with her deeply, you must already be grounded in your own purpose, your own emotional stability, and your own sense of worth. If you are chasing validation, trying to prove yourself, or seeking her approval as a substitute for your own self-respect, she will sense it immediately, and her guard will only rise higher. But when your courage comes from inner confidence, your consistency comes from integrity, and your emotional strength comes from discipline and maturity, she begins to see you as someone worthy of her trust. In this way, breaking through her guarded heart is not just about her transformation. It is also about yours, about proving through your actions that you are capable of holding love with honor, patience, and depth. Her heart is not something that will be unlocked through grand speeches or flashy gestures. It will not be won over by the intensity of temporary passion. It will only be reached by the man who has the strength to endure the process, who understands that love is not about breaking down defenses with force, but about dissolving them with patience, respect, and unwavering presence. And when that moment finally comes, when her walls crumble, not because you demanded it, but because she chose to let you in, the love that flows from her will be unlike any other, intense, loyal, and unshakably real. When a woman tests you, it is easy to misunderstand her intentions, to assume that she is playing games or trying to manipulate your emotions, but in reality, her tests often come from a place of deep fear rather than doubt. She is not testing you because she wants to confuse you or because she does not value who you are. She is testing you because she knows the weight of her own heart, and she understands how painful it is to give it to the wrong man. Every strong woman carries within her memories of past disappointments, betrayals, and the harsh reality that not everyone who speaks of love truly understands what it means to hold it with care. So when she sets boundaries, when she withdraws to see how you respond, when she creates small challenges to measure your consistency, she is not doubting your worth, she is protecting her own. Her tests are her way of searching for evidence, proof that you are steady enough to withstand not only her beauty and softness, but also the moments when she feels insecure, afraid, or guarded. A woman's heart is not a fragile thing, but it is a precious thing, and once broken, it takes time and courage to heal. That is why her tests are never really about you. They are about her fear of giving herself away to someone who might not respect the gift of her vulnerability. She fears being broken not because she is weak, but because she knows her depth. She knows that when she loves, she does not love halfway. She gives herself fully. And giving fully to the wrong man is a devastation she never wants to experience again. So her tests are a shield, a filter through which only the man who truly values her can pass. These tests are not cruel. They are necessary because they help her see whether your intentions are genuine or whether your interest is just another fleeting desire. If you crumble under the weight of her hesitation, if you react with frustration when she pulls back, if you demand her trust before earning it, then you show her that you are not safe for her heart. But if you remain steady, patient, and calm, she begins to see that maybe, just maybe, you are different. It is important to understand that these tests are rarely about the surface. They are not about whether you buy her flowers or send her sweet messages. They are about how you respond when things are not easy, when she is distant, when she questions, when she expresses doubt. A man who is emotionally unstable will see her withdrawal as rejection, and he will either chase desperately or give up completely. A man who is insecure will interpret her boundaries as an insult and try to break them down through force. But the man who truly understands her will see these tests for what they are: a cry for safety, a way of asking without words. Can I trust you to hold me without dropping me? Can I lean on you without fearing that you will disappear when it gets heavy? When you respond with emotional strength instead of neediness, when you give her space instead of pressure, when you listen instead of arguing, you show her that her fears do not scare you and that her walls do not intimidate you. A guarded woman tests not because she doubts you personally, but because she doubts the world around her. She has been taught by experience that people say one thing and do another, that affection can be temporary, that promises can be broken. Her trust has been bruised, and so she cannot afford to hand it over freely anymore. Every step closer to you feels like a risk to her, and risks are terrifying when the cost is your heart. She may ask questions that feel unnecessary. She may distance herself just to see if you will chase or if you will respect her silence. She may even challenge your words by waiting to see if your actions align with them. These are not acts of cruelty. They are her survival mechanisms. They are the ways she keeps herself from falling into the wrong arms. And if you understand this truth, you will not take her tests personally. You will not see them as attacks on your worth, but as opportunities to prove your steadiness through calmness and action rather than reaction. The more you prove through consistency and patience, the more her fear begins to soften. Her tests are not meant to last forever. They are temporary barriers meant to separate the fleeting from the permanent, the shallow from the deep, the reckless from the worthy. When you respond with understanding instead of frustration, with strength instead of insecurity, she begins to feel that safety she has longed for. Slowly, she will let her guard down, not because you forced her to, but because you created an environment where she no longer needs to be on guard. Her fear of being broken begins to fade when she realizes that you are not there to shatter her, but to protect and honor what is most sacred within her. And in that moment, her love becomes something rare, something deep, something loyal beyond measure, because she knows she has finally found someone who passed her tests, not by fighting against them, but by understanding why they existed in the first place. When you break her, you are not shattering her spirit or diminishing her strength. You are breaking the invisible chains that fear has wrapped around her heart. Every woman who has loved and lost, who has trusted and been betrayed, who has opened herself only to be disappointed, carries within her a cycle of fear. That cycle whispers that if she gives too much, she will be hurt again, that if she trusts too soon, she will be abandoned, that if she surrenders her heart, it will be taken for granted. And so even when she desires connection, even when she longs to love freely, she holds back. She keeps one foot in and one foot out, never fully letting go, because the cycle of fear convinces her that safety lies in restraint. To break her in the truest sense is to break this cycle, to show her that love does not always end in pain, that trust does not always result in betrayal, and that surrender can sometimes lead to peace rather than regret. This breaking is not done through force, but through presence. It is done not by demanding her trust, but by earning it through consistency and patience. Fear thrives in uncertainty, and when she has been let down before, her heart expects patterns to repeat themselves. But when you stand firm, when you show up in the same strength and calmness, regardless of her doubts or her distance, you begin to disrupt the narrative that fear has built inside her. Each moment of patience chips away at her resistance. Each demonstration of emotional stability challenges the lies that tell her all men will eventually leave. Each act of understanding rewrites her beliefs about love. Breaking her fear is really breaking her history, creating new evidence that not every step toward vulnerability has to lead to devastation. A woman trapped in the cycle of fear often builds walls not because she wants to keep people out, but because she desperately wants someone worthy enough to stay. She does not test or retreat because she hates you, but because she wants to see if you will crumble the way others have. when you endure her hesitation without frustration, when you remain calm instead of reactive, when you respect her boundaries instead of trying to bulldoze them, you are breaking through the barrier that fear has created. And in that process, you are showing her a reality she has longed for, but hardly dared to believe in, a reality where love feels like safety, not like risk, where closeness feels grounding instead of suffocating, where trust is not blind but built through steady action. To break her means you are strong enough to stand against her cycle of withdrawal and return, her push and pull, her tests and defenses without losing your balance. Most men will either chase her desperately when she pulls away or walk away entirely, confirming her fear that vulnerability is dangerous. But the one who breaks the cycle does neither. He does not chase out of insecurity, nor does he abandon out of impatience. He simply stands firm, steady in his presence, grounded in his self-respect, unshaken by her attempts to test. This kind of strength is not about domination, it is about emotional mastery. It shows her that she can lean into you without the fear of collapse, that she can trust you without expecting betrayal, that she can love you without fearing that her love will be used against her. The cycle of fear keeps her from giving love freely because it convinces her that freedom will lead to regret. Breaking that cycle allows her to finally taste the fullness of love, to experience the beauty of vulnerability without it feeling like weakness, to trust without it feeling like a gamble. But this breaking is not a one-time event. It is a gradual dismantling of the armor she has carried for so long. Each time you respond with patience instead of anger, a piece of that armor falls away. Each time you choose calmness instead of chaos, she loosens her grip on fear. Each time you show that you are consistent in action, not just in words, she begins to realize that not all love ends in destruction. And slowly she dares to open, to give herself more fully, to trust more deeply, because she no longer feels the need to protect herself so fiercely. True love requires this kind of breaking. Without it, she remains stuck in cycles of half-hearted connection, never able to truly surrender, always holding back in fear of repeating the past. But when you break her cycle of fear, you create space for a different story. In that space, she learns that love can be expansive instead of restrictive, joyful instead of anxious, freeing instead of suffocating. And the man who can guide her into this realization becomes unforgettable, not because he forced his way into her heart, but because he broke the cycle that once held her captive, giving her the courage to love freely and fully, without fear. Only when her soul feels seen, protected, and valued will she ever allow herself to fully surrender to love, because love at its deepest level is not about physical attraction or surface level connection. It is about emotional safety. A woman can admire your looks, she can enjoy your humor, she can be drawn to your charm, but none of that will ever make her release the armor she has built over the years, unless she feels that you see beyond the exterior, into the essence of who she is. To be seen means you notice what others overlook, the subtleties of her expressions, the depth of her thoughts, the hidden fears she carries quietly. When a woman feels seen, she knows she is not invisible in your presence. She knows she does not have to shout to be heard. She knows she does not have to pretend to be someone else just to hold your interest. Being seen is about recognition without her having to demand it. It is about you acknowledging her essence in ways that make her feel uniquely understood. But being seen alone is not enough, because seeing her without protecting her leaves her vulnerable and exposed. Protection does not mean control or dominance. It means being the shield she can rest behind when the world becomes heavy. Women are strong, resilient, capable of carrying more than they are often given credit for. But even the strongest woman craves a space where she does not have to carry it all on her own. Protection is not about rescuing her from her own life. It is about making her feel that with you she is safe, that with you she can exhale, that with you her heart is not in constant danger of being mishandled. When she feels your protection, not in words, but in consistent action, she learns that letting her guard down will not cost her peace, but will instead give her a sanctuary she can lean into without hesitation. Value is the third pillar, and without it, no amount of love can sustain itself. To value her is to recognize her worth in the small and quiet ways, not just in grand gestures. It is the way you speak to her when no one is watching, the way you respect her time, the way you treat her feelings as significant rather than dismissible. Value means you don't just appreciate what she does for you, but you appreciate who she is, even when she is giving you nothing in return. It is about understanding that her presence in your life is not replaceable, that her uniqueness adds something irreplaceable to your world. When a woman feels valued, she does not feel like she is competing for your attention. She does not feel like she has to prove her worth to you. She knows that simply by being herself, she is enough. Only when all three come together, being seen, being protected, and being valued, does she feel that her soul has found a home. This is the state where her heart stops resisting, where her fears start dissolving, where she finally dares to love without holding back. Many men mistakenly believe love is something to be demanded or earned through effort, but love in its truest form is surrendered freely when a woman feels these core needs are met. When she feels invisible, she withdraws. When she feels unprotected, she hardens. When she feels undervalued, she questions why she should give at all. But when you create the environment where her soul is acknowledged, her safety